The old Ashenmoor Manor loomed against a moonlit winter sky, its stone walls silvered with frost. Ethan stepped through the sagging front doorway, careful not to snag his camera rig on the splintered wood. Snow crunched under his boots even inside the foyer, blown in through broken panes. He was live-streaming this investigation for his channel. A small green light on his shoulder-mounted camera blinked as thousands of viewers tuned in. The silence inside was immense, broken only by the soft scrape of his footsteps and the distant whistle of wind through the upper floors. "Ethan here, coming to you live from Ashenmoor Manor," he said quietly, voice echoing in the empty hall. In the pale glow of his flashlight, motes of dust swirled like specters. "This place has quite the history. Locals call it the widow's house." His breath fogged in the cold as he narrated. According to town legend, the lady of this house, now known only as the widow of Ashenmoor, had lost her husband decades ago and never left even after death. Neighbors whispered that her grief turned vengeful, that she still prowled these ruined halls. Tonight, Ethan hoped to capture proof of her presence. Though standing here now, he felt a heavy dread settling on his shoulders. Plaster peeled from the high ceiling and an antique chandelier hung rusted and lifeless above. He panned the camera slowly across the entry hall, revealing twin staircases curving up to darkness and a corridor yawning ahead. The chat messages popped up on his phone screen strapped to his wrist, curious viewers urging him deeper. Ethan swallowed hard and forced a smile for the audience. "Let's take a look around," he whispered, more to himself than to anyone else. He advanced toward the grand hall beyond, boots crunching fragments of glass. Each step in the manor felt like trespass. Ethan's pulse thudded in his ears as he passed under an arch into a cavernous living room. In the flashlight beam, he could make out the shrouded shape of a sofa draped in dusty sheets and a fireplace choked with charred debris. The air here smelled of soot and something faintly sweet, like decaying flowers. He wondered if those were from some long-ago funeral offering left to dry and rot. Suddenly, a slam echoed from behind him. Ethan whirled around. The front door, which he had left half open, was now shut tight. The boom reverberated through the house, stirring dust from the rafters. He aimed the camera back the way he came, heart hammering. That wasn't the wind," he murmured under his breath, forgetting for a moment the thousands watching. It had closed with the force of a deliberate hand. He crossed back through the foyer, boots sliding on the icy floorboards, and grasped the doorknob. It wouldn't budge. The heavy oak door was firmly closed as if locked from the outside. Ethan's breath caught. This was the only easy way out. A nervous chuckle escaped him as he jiggled the handle again, trying to appear unfazed. "Looks like our friend the widow wants me to stay," he joked weakly for the stream. But his voice quavered and the joke fell flat. In the chat, comments flurried in, people asking if he was okay or if someone else had slammed it. Ethan stepped back, scanning the shadows. As he raised the camera to pan across the foyer, the live feed flickered. The video signal stuttered into static for a heartbeat before clearing. On his phone screen, Ethan glimpsed the viewer count spike and frantic messages flood in. They had seen something in the brief glitch. He frowned and replayed the last few seconds of footage from the device. For just an instant, the wide-angle shot of the foyer had warbled. In that distortion, it almost looked like a figure standing at the base of the stairs behind him, just a vague silhouette in black. But in the next frame, it was gone. The equipment wasn't old enough for random glitches, and the timing right after the door slam made his skin crawl. A chill crept through the hall, and Ethan felt the hairs on his arms lift. "I think I might not be alone here," he whispered, barely audible. He kept the camera rolling and pointed it toward the staircase where the phantom shape might have been. The staircase was empty now, just a banister lined with dust. Still, he could swear the shadows at the top of the stairs were darker than they should be, as if something lingered just out of sight. He swallowed, throat dry. Ethan knew he should leave, door or no door, but there was no turning back now, not after what thousands of people might have just witnessed. He wiped sweat from his brow, the cold air suddenly cloying and thick. "Did anyone else see a person just now?" he asked hushly, more to fill the silence than expecting an answer. The chat confirmed in an explosion of text. There was a woman behind you, someone was there. His heart pounded faster. If the widow of Ashenmoor was here in earnest, he had to be careful, and he had to document everything. Forcing himself to continue, Ethan made his way up the left staircase, boots leaving prints in the thick dust on each step. The wood groaned under his weight. Halfway up, an icy breeze drifted down the stairs carrying the scent of something burnt. The flashlight in his hand guttered, the light briefly dimming as if an unseen hand passed over it. Ethan halted. The temperature had plummeted. He could see his breath clouding in front of his face again. He heard a creak above, like a door slowly swinging open on rusty hinges somewhere on the second floor. He steadied the camera and climbed the last steps. At the top landing, a long corridor stretched out, lined with doors to the bedrooms and study, he presumed. One door near the far end was ajar, the darkness beyond it yawning like an open mouth. That door had not been open a minute ago. Of that he was almost certain. The corridor was bitterly cold. Each exhale billowed around him as he approached the gaping doorway. "Widow," he called softly. His voice fell flat in the thick silence. Part of him felt foolish speaking to a ghost, but the other part knew someone or something had to have moved that door. He braced himself and nudged the door fully open with the toe of his boot, camera held before him like a shield. The room beyond was a master bedroom draped in cobwebs. Tattered curtains hung over windows rimed with ice. On a vanity table, a porcelain hand mirror and brush lay undisturbed, coated in decades of dust. Ethan stepped inside cautiously. The floor was littered with glass shards from a long broken lamp. The wallpaper, once floral, was peeling in long, torn strips. This room must have belonged to the lady of the house. He imagined the widow sitting at that vanity once, brushing her hair by lamplight, waiting for someone who never returned. Now it felt like she was here with him, watching. His camera feed crackled again, a brief buzz of static that turned the mirror's reflection into a blur. Ethan glanced at the vanity mirror. For a split second, he thought he saw movement in it. Behind him, a shift of a dark shape near the doorway. He spun around, shining the flashlight. Nothing but empty air and drifting dust. When he looked back at the mirror, he froze. The dust on its surface had been disturbed. There, drawn as if by a fingertip, was a single word: leave. Every muscle in Ethan's body went taut. His mouth went dry. The scrawled letters glistened, as though just written in moisture condensing on the glass. The message was clear. The widow, or whatever entity dwelled here, did not want him in this house. A spike of fear lanced through him. The rational part of his mind insisted this had to be a prank or an elaborate stunt, but deep in his gut he knew it wasn't. His hands trembled as he filmed the mirror for his audience's benefit. You all see that?" he managed to say, voice cracking. The chat was going wild, the small preview on his phone screen flooded with "get out" and "oh my god" from viewers. With a shuddering breath, Ethan nodded to himself. "All right, you've got your proof," he whispered, not sure if he was talking to his viewers or the ghost. He had come here seeking a show, but now survival was the only thing on his mind. "I'm leaving now." He backed out of the bedroom, unable to tear his eyes away from that mirror until he was in the hallway again. The corridor felt narrower now, the shadows deeper. Ethan realized how isolated he was, trapped on a dark second floor with whatever had written that warning. He hurried toward the stairs, each step too slow for his liking. The camera jostled in his grip. If the front door was locked, he'd break a window if he had to. No footage was worth his life. As he passed a second bedroom door on the way to the landing, it slammed shut just inches from his shoulder. An explosive crack that made him yelp. He jumped back, nearly dropping the camera. In the same instant, the overhead light fixture flickered, though there had been no power in this house for years. A brief flash of pale blue light illuminated the corridor. And there she was. At the far end of the hallway stood a figure in a black dress, silhouette stark against the darkness. The widow. Her face was obscured by shadow and a veil of cobwebbed hair, but Ethan could sense her eyes fixed on him. She was impossibly tall and thin, her form flickering in and out of focus as though she were a bad signal herself. his chest constricted with primal fear. "Oh God!" The words caught in his throat. The camera feed was still rolling. He heard it hissing with static as it struggled to focus on the apparition. Summoning courage born of pure adrenaline, Ethan raised a trembling hand in what he hoped was a placating gesture. "I'm leaving," he croaked again. "I'm sorry. I'll go, just please." The widow moved. One moment she was at the end of the hallway, the next she was 3 paces closer, without ever appearing to walk. The fabric of her dress fluttered as if in a storm, though the air was deathly still. Ethan stumbled back, nearly losing his footing. The camera strapped to him tilted, the image swinging wildly for the viewers as he turned to flee. He dashed down the stairs, heart in his throat, boots barely finding purchase. The footage lurched and blurred as he ran. Behind him, he heard a horrendous hollow wail, a sound that plucked every nerve in his body. It was not the wind. It was a cry of mourning and rage that followed him, reverberating through the stairwell. At the bottom, he tore toward the front door. The beam of his flashlight danced across the foyer as he tried the door again with frantic urgency. The heavy door still refused to yield. Ethan rammed his shoulder against it, once, twice, desperate to break it open. It was like hitting a brick wall. Over his labored breathing, he realized the wailing had stopped. The sudden silence was worse. He didn't know where she was now. His hands shook as he unstrapped the camera from his shoulder mount and set it on a side table facing him and the door. If he had to throw himself at this exit until it gave way, he wanted to have his hands free and the camera still capturing everything. The live feed's tiny monitor showed his own wide-eyed face in profile as he threw himself against the door again. "Come on, please," he groaned, voice raw. The wood creaked but held. A faint click-click-click sound began behind him, like heels tapping on the floorboards. It approached slowly, deliberately. Ethan froze, pressing his forehead against the cold wooden door. He didn't want to turn around. Fear seeped into every cell of his body, rooting him in place. The tapping stopped just behind him. With dread twisting in his stomach, Ethan turned his head to glance over his shoulder. The widow of Ashenmoor stood an arm's length away. In the hazy glow of the fallen flashlight, he could finally see her face. It was ashen and gaunt, the skin stretched tight over bone. Her eyes were milky and hollow, but somehow he felt her gaze locking onto his. A tattered black veil framed her features, and behind it her lips twisted into something between a snarl and a pained grin. "No!" Ethan shouted. He twisted around fully, raising his arms defensively. But it was too late. The widow lunged, impossibly fast. Her bony, cold hands latched onto his shoulders. He felt a jolt of numbing cold shoot through his body at her touch. For an instant, he couldn't breathe. The camera on the table captured everything. Ethan suddenly stiffening as the dark specter grasped him. His head snapped back and his mouth opened in a silent scream. The viewers saw the ghost silhouette envelop him like black smoke. Inside his mind, Ethan felt a crushing pressure, an invading presence flooding into him. It was as if icy water poured into his skull, drowning all thought. His vision went dark around the edges and the world tilted. He staggered once, his body no longer entirely under his control. The widow's fury coursed through his veins. He could feel her grief, decades old and sharp as a knife, filling him up, eclipsing everything else. His own arm, moving without his command, reached out toward the camera. Slowly, Ethan turned to face it. On the stream, his eyes were unfocused and strange, his pupils blown wide, almost consuming the iris. A grotesque grin tugged at his lips, entirely not his own. In a guttural, rasping voice that belonged to the long-dead woman, he spoke directly into the lens. "You should not have come." Each word scraped out of his throat like stones. Suddenly, Ethan convulsed. A violent spasm jolted through his entire body, and a horrible cracking sound echoed as his back bent too far. The ghostly presence flung him aside like a rag doll. His body hit the foyer wall with a dull thud and collapsed to the floor just beyond the camera's view. The old side table rattled, nearly toppling the camera. For a long moment, the only thing the live stream showed was an askew view of the foyer, flashlight beams skittering across the ceiling, the edge of the open staircase, and part of Ethan's limp arm on the floor. A wispy tendril of black mist drifted across the frame and disappeared into the shadows. There was no movement except the swirling dust stirred by unseen forces. On the livestream's chat, panicked messages flooded the screen, pleading for Ethan to respond, asking if it was part of the show, urging someone to call for help. But Ethan did not stir. The camera continued to stream the macabre stillness. The only sound was the faint crackle of static and the distant howl of wind through the broken windows upstairs. Suddenly, the heavy front door that had refused to open creaked ajar on its own. The darkness beyond it beckoned with an empty silence. The camera, still recording, caught the door drifting fully open as if the house itself were finally letting its victim go. Outside, snow flurries danced in the night air. The stream continued for another few seconds, capturing the final image of the open doorway and the motionless silhouette of Ethan's body on the floor. Then the feed cut out abruptly, plunging thousands of viewers into darkness and silence, leaving them with nothing but their terror and the unanswered question of what they had just witnessed.
If you enjoyed this video, please do not forget to like, comment, or share this video with your friends. Subscribe to our channel to hear more stories like this one.